Come on, you boys and great. Come on, you boys. Come on, you boys and great. Come on, you boys and great. Come on, you boys. Come on, you boys and great. Come on, you boys and great.
Hello, Irish Football Fan TV. It's myself, Paul Nealon, joined by the one and only Gary Spain. We're here for the watch along. It is Leicester City versus Southampton. And we've got 3 Irish players involved. 1 starting and 2 on the bench. Will Smallbone is starting, Gary. He's in for Gineppo. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on against Leicester. Obviously, Leicester are a very good side. We've got Shane Long and we've got Will Ferry on the bench. How do you think this one's going to go out? How do you think Will Smallbone is going to do?
Yeah, it's a good chance to get a look at him, Paul. To be honest, I haven't seen that much of him. I know he's made a few appearances in the Premier League, more so last season than this season. But he's playing on the left side of midfield. He's a lovely cultured player, and it'd be good to get a look at him. I mean, Leicester, both clubs are actually doing incredibly well and probably punching above their weight. Just chatting off air, Leicester go second with a win. A big win for Southampton would actually mean they go third. So it just shows how well they've done. Southampton are just off a great win over Liverpool. Leicester have been in flying form all season. I mean, it seems ridiculous to talk about Leicester winning the league, but it was ridiculous in 2016 as well. So it'll be an interesting game, and it'll tell a lot. I suppose being at home, you could say you'd fancy Leicester to win, but they're probably more of a team that suits playing away from home, as they like to play in the counter-attack and use Vardy's pace in behind and, well, the creativity of Maddison as well, etc. So it'll be an interesting one because Leicester have to, being at home, even without the crowd, probably have to force the game a bit more. So, but I'm particularly interested in watching to see how Will Smallbone gets on. And if he gets his place regularly in the Southampton team, he has to be in Stephen Kenny's thoughts then as well for March.
Yeah. What was the score in the game? Was it 9-0 or 8-0 last year?
So
the game.
Yeah. It was a funny one. It was at the St Mary's, the Southampton stadium. I was struggling there. I was going to call it the Dell. At St Mary's, it was 9-0 to Leicester. But when the return match happened at the Walker Stadium, it's actually the Walker Stadium anymore. King Power. I'm better at the old names of these stadiums. Southampton went to the King Power and won this game 2-1 last season. So that was quite a turnaround. And actually another thing to bear in mind was the Southampton stuck with their manager after that 9-0 defeat, and he was Ralph Hasenhüttl, and he was under a huge amount of pressure. I mean, you lose 9-0 at home, particularly I would say to a team like Leicester, in that you could kind of get away with losing 9. Well, it's never nice, but if you're losing to Liverpool or Manchester United or Manchester City, yeah, you can say, look, they're really, really top-class sides. Now, not that Leicester aren't a bad side, but to lose 9-0 at home to Leicester really rubs it in a bit. But it just shows they went back a few months later and Southampton went and won in the King Power.
Yeah, well, I think as well with Hasenhüttl, I actually like the fact that he's coaching 2 or 3, or you would say 4 if you include Obafemi in that. And he showed a lot of faith in Obafemi last season. But he has Smallbone there, Ferry there, and Shane Long. And I know Shane Long probably doesn't need any more coaching. I think he's learned as much as he can. But if you speak to footballers, they'll tell you they learn every day. I think Southampton have done really well. They obviously didn't they beat Liverpool last week. So like they're flying, and to see him down in tears was really nice, I suppose, from an Irish point of view, to see someone who's given so much to Irish players in recent times just start to do well, because as you said, other people would have been sacked last year, and they kept with him, and now they're reaping the rewards from it, and they look a really good side. They're very energetic. I like Vestergaard at the back for them there, and Bednarek, they seem to be a good partnership, and they've got good players all around the pitch. You've got Redmond, who obviously we've had some dealings with in the past. Willie, won't he declare for Ireland? I wouldn't want him now at this point. He clearly wants to play for England. They've got Bertrand. They have good players, and they always do have good players that they always tend to sell on. Cedric, Walcott, Bale. They've always been a club traditionally like that. But he seems to be getting the best out of these players. Look at Ward-Prowse as well. So hopefully Will Smallbone can kind of start moving up the ladder a bit like Ward-Prowse and use him as his example, because Ward-Prowse only up until recent seasons, he wasn't amazing. He's only this season, I suppose, and the back of last year started to show what he could really do. There's Smallbone giving it out there, I think, out wide. But yeah, it's as I said, it's great to see them. And look at how well Southampton are doing now. Because
it also got James Ward-Prowse into the England squad, which is a good sign that he can actually play international football for England while staying at Southampton, that he doesn't have to move on. Because, as you say, they have lost so many players, have moved on to, well, I think the old joke about being Liverpool's B team. But they've... A lot of former Southampton players have gone on, well, the obvious one being Virgil van Dijk, but they've gone on to become top players in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Into the Premier League as well.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with that. And they're just a really good side, but it will be interesting to see how they play out. There's a couple of people online. There's 24 online. Make sure you smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. There's a couple of comments coming in. MC Sweeney or Max Sweeney says, "Story lads, how are you, MC?" I'm gonna just call it MC Sweeney, even if it is Max Sweeney. Gary, if you want to say hello, feel free. While I look through the other comments.
MC, how you doing?
Yeah. Peter Marr says, "Paul, will my team Liverpool win the league?" I don't know. Right now, it's very, very open between a lot of teams, but they would be my favourite. As much as I don't want to say that, but they would be the favourite for me, even despite their injuries and stuff like that. If they can get a defender in for January, it probably help them out big time for the rest of the season. I am reading the comments over here in case people think I'm not. I have the game on here, the camera here, and the comments here. Gary, any opinion on Liverpool to win the league quickly?
Yeah, no, I mean, the problem is tomorrow's match could make a fool out of both of us. But yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Very interesting to watch Liverpool Man United tomorrow. If I have to sit in the fence a bit, I actually think Man City could win the league. They haven't been very good for a lot of this season, but in recent weeks they've really clicked into form and they appear to have solved the goal scoring problem. And with Sergio Aguero coming back to full fitness as well, they look really, really solid at the back, and they don't leak many goals at all. And I think that's always a good thing too. If you're looking for a team to win a title, they're always very solid at the back. And Liverpool just don't seem. Obviously, Van Dijk is a massive, massive loss, but they've also been without Gomez and Matip for a good chunk of the season as well. And if I had to put money without a lot of certainty, I would actually put it in Manchester City. But I wouldn't rule out Manchester United either. I mean, they're 3 points clear. And if they were to avoid defeat tomorrow, they seem the best at putting away the minnows for one. Well, not the minnows, but the mid-table to lower-table teams. Man United seem to be able to beat those comfortably and consistently, which the others seem to struggle with. But then you look at Man United, and I know it was in the League Cup, but they were comfortably beaten by Man City there the other night. They were hammered at home by Tottenham, lost at home to Arsenal as well. So tomorrow could tell a lot about Manchester United's challenge. And, well, do you rule out the likes of Leicester City? I know you're going to say Everton as well. I mean, Leicester go a point off the top if they win tonight. They won it in 2016, when anybody at this stage in 2016 talking about Leicester winning the league would be laughed at. Will you be laughed at again? Yeah, I actually don't think Leicester will win the league, but I didn't think they'd win it in 2016 either. You never know. But ultimately, I think it has to be one of Manchester City, Liverpool, or Manchester United. And although I know Miguel Delaney on Twitter has constantly been bigging up Tottenham. And could it be Tottenham's year? I don't think so, but you never know.
No, I think Man City is actually a great show, and they've got their defence sorted out with Stones and Diaz there. And that was a big hole for them in the last couple of years. I think a bit like Liverpool this season. Man City were like that last year with Laporte out for so long. And it's funny how football works. Stones couldn't get in the team because of Laporte, and now Laporte can't get in the team, and he was tipped to be the best player in their squad. their best defender. Now they brought in, and they have a good partnership now, and they're doing really well. Wouldn't rule out Man City either, but if Everton got into the top 4, I'd be a very happy man come the end of the season. Daniel Dineen says, opinion on Callum Robinson's game today versus Wolves. I didn't actually see the game, but I do know that he did get 2 penalties that helped, obviously, West Brom win the game. They won 3-2 in the end. So he done really well for that. So I was delighted to see that. And I think I've said it. I think if we are starting with someone up front, I think it should be Callum Robinson through the middle as a centre forward. I think that's where he should play for Ireland. It's where he plays for West Brom. I think that's where he should be played for Ireland. I don't know about you, Gary. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
Yeah, I saw most of it, and I had to go out and do the weekly grocery shop. But I actually saw it right up to 3-2, so I actually saw all the goals. Yeah, I mean, as you say, he won the 2 penalties. He had a great chance as well. Possibly should have scored, but the keeper did make a very good save. But he did lead the line well, and I agree with you, Paul. I think if he's fit and available, knowing what we know now, he would be in my starting 11 for Belgrade anyway. We don't have a huge amount of talent up front, attacking talent. People are going to score goals, and for me, he's one of our better attacking players. And I would be starting Aaron Connolly and Callum Robinson if both of them were fit. And I think the third spot is probably, if you take Stephen Kenny's 4-3-3 formation, it's the third spot that I think is up for grabs.
Yeah, no, you obviously mean the right hand side of the 3. I think, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. If we are going in a 3, I think the right hand side is. But Robbie Brady, I think, would be best suited to that, and he's playing really well with Burnley, because I know that kind of brings us to our next comment, kind of today's games in the Premier League. Again, I didn't get a chance to watch any games today. But I do have the scores here. So it was Wolves 2, West Brom 3, and Callum Robinson obviously had a hand to play. Leeds got beaten 1-0 by Brighton, Mopé with the goal, and I don't think any Irish lads were involved in that. Nope.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I did
Garen's
check the line.
still out with an injury.
Yeah.
West Ham then beat Burnley 1-0. And I do believe that Robbie Brady had a good game there. Dan Randolph, I think, was on the bench for that one. Yes, he was. And who else was on the bench for them? Kevin Long was on the bench then for Burnley, and Robbie Brady started. And it looks like he played 90 minutes as well, which is good. And then Fulham and Chelsea. I don't think we had any Irish lads involved there.
No, I don't think there's anyone there.
No, I always keep thinking back that Cyrus Christie still plays for Fulham, even though he plays for Forest now. But he's unbeaten now with Forest now. I think he put up on his Instagram earlier, so good for him.
Yeah, they could win today. Yeah.
Yeah, the comments are actually flying in, because we actually had an agenda set that we could go through, but the comments are flying in, which is totally fine, because we'll go through all the comments first, and then we'll go through what we had talking points as well. But Dara, just your opinions. It was just great to see and hear that Robbie Brady was doing really well. I know they didn't win, but Mipo Opodeku was playing as well. Someone just commented there. Didn't see it, but he's supposed to be really, really good. Will he play for Ireland? I don't know. I haven't heard. All I keep hearing is that he deleted all his stuff from Ireland off his Instagram. That's all I've heard about him. I haven't. I know I think he was a Cherry Orchard player, and he's from Dublin. That's about all I know about him. And that David Moyes is a huge fan of his, and he used to play with Man United. That's about all I've heard. Have you heard much about this kid, Gary?
No, I haven't, Paul. So yeah, I don't really know. It's just what you said.
Mipo Opudeko or Odupeko, one or the other, whatever way you say.
Yeah. So I mean, I know he's eligible for us. He's obviously eligible for England as well, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, he certainly. I mean, the under-21 draw will be made this month. He's certainly probably worth a call up for that at least, and see what happens. You know. But I don't know, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems as though with Haller's gone, it seems to give him the promotion there now. So we'll be interested to see how he develops over the next kind of couple of months or whatever, because David Moyes pretty much said that he's going to be next in command other than Antonio. That's what it seems like. But they'll probably bring in someone anyway and buy them over the course of the transfer window. Moyes is notorious for bringing in someone in January, just a loan deal. He used to do it with Everton all the time. He does that a lot. Just Game Troller says there, hey Paul, can you do a big shout out to Mark, who's a massive Southampton fan? Shout out Mark. Come on, the Saints.
Hi Mark. Yeah, come on. A great season for the Saints so far.
Yeah, long may that continue. Tom Flannelly says, hi, love the channel. What do you think of Anthony Scully's form? Do you think he's able to potentially play in the Premier League? I think he's got a chance if he keeps going the way he's going. Obviously, the best thing he did was leave West Ham last year. He was doing well at the under-23s and he left for Lincoln. And now he's flying with Lincoln. I think he had 9 goals and 6 assists, if I'm correct in saying.
Yeah, something like that. He's playing really well. I mean, again, I haven't seen any Lincoln games on TV or anything like that. Just the odd snippet and the highlights. But he does seem to be playing really well. And he has to catch the eye. At least if Lincoln don't go into the Championship now, they have a great chance of getting into the Championship next season. He would at least, I'm sure, catch the eye of a Championship club, if not a Premier League club, as you say.
Yeah. Well, let's just see. I think he'd probably have to go through the Championship first. I know Zach Elbazetti left Lincoln to go to Bolton today, which we're going to talk about later on. But look, if Scully can keep going the way he's going, then happy days. And I hope he continues to grow through the leagues. But I think he has to do it in the Championship first before I think anybody in the Premier League will take a punt on him. Ush Bosch is away. Very Ush. How's things?
Oh, Ush.
Jack Gannon says we could possibly play a diamond instead of the 4-3-3. We've spoken about this before. I don't really want to go into it again. I think that's something we'll discuss probably closer to the time, but it's no point in talking about it right now. Mick Killeen says Big Sam will be the making of Dara O'Shea at West Brom. He will be the heart of our defence. I'll let you.
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of Big Sam. I mean, I said it before on here. I mean, obviously, big Limerick fan, and Big Sam's first manager job was player manager of Limerick in the 91-92 season, and he won the first division for us, got us promotion with a young side. Yeah, I mean, look, you know what you get with Big Sam, and it is, you might say, the old-fashioned game, long ball, but he organises a team well, and he does know how to organise a defence and get the best out of teams. I mean, he had Dara O'Shea playing. It seems to be a right back today, but Dara O'Shea's had a fantastic season, and it's great that he's a regular starter for Big Sam. And I mean, look, Sam was a fine centre half, an old-fashioned centre half, as I mentioned before. But back in Sam's day, it was very rare for a centre back to be taking the ball out from the back and passing it. And Sam certainly never did that, to my memory, anyway. But he did what you'd expect a defender to do, and that is defend and stop goals and get blocks in, clear the balls, win headers, win balls in the box. And he was as good as anyone at doing that. And even at the end of his days in Limerick, he was just so good at doing that and so good at organising and getting a lot of younger players to run their legs off for the club. And I think he's great for Dara O'Shea's development. It's great that he's faith in Dara. And we talked about this already, Paul. I would not be surprised if Dara O'Shea starts in Belgrade or becomes a mainstay, because he's playing regularly in the Premier League. He's playing well. I know he's young and he's inexperienced, and maybe Belgrade is one for, particularly with hostile atmosphere, is one for the older heads. But if somebody's in form, it'd be very hard to leave them out.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would, if we're going right now, gun to my head, I would be starting Dara O'Shea in that game, regardless of the pressures of playing in Serbia. He's shown that he can do it in international, in the Premier League. He's shown he can do it. So for me, I think him and Egan would be the two at the moment, just because purely things just aren't going very well for Shane Long at Celtic, and I know he hasn't let Ireland down really. I know there was a couple of blips in the summer, but other than that, there was nothing really, and he's been a really good player for Ireland. But I just think if you're going, I think you have to go off form. But then again, you think that Shane Duffy is the captain. Oh, great save. Shane Duffy is the captain when Seamus Coleman's not playing, so there is that element to it too. So it will be an interesting one closer to the time. Do I think that Allardyce is a great manager for Darragh O'Shea? I think maybe for the season, but I wouldn't want him for more than that in terms of his development. I think O'Shea will go on to bigger and better things in the future. I think a bigger club in the Premier League will come for Darragh O'Shea at some point in the next 2 seasons. I don't think he'll be at West Brom for too long. I think that's just a stopgap for him and his development. I think he could go on to be a really top defender, and I think he's shown that. Maybe people might say that's an Irish bias, but he just looks so calm and cool as ice. He just doesn't look like anything really phases him. He never looks flustered on the ball. He never looks like, you'd see a lot of young fellas coming in and they just don't look like they know what they're doing. With him, he just always looks composed. He always kind of seems confident, and he seems to just take everything into his stride. I think that's something that Slaven Bilic had said last season, was something that he really loved about Darragh, and he was saying that even then he was saying that he was mature beyond his years. So I think he's lived up to that, to be fair, to everything Bilic said this time last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's played really well, and I mean, Slaven Bilic was. I was sorry to see him go, because another class defender in his day as a player, and he was just unfortunate with results in the Premier League. You don't get too many second chances these days, but and he did show great faith in Darragh. But Darragh is playing really well, so it's very easy to show good faith in him. So I think he's going to be a mainstay for the future, and he's one of a number of young players that we have coming through that will give great hope for the future.
Yeah, and there's a couple of young players that we need to speak about later on in the show as well. Don't forget, that could be useful for the game in Serbia too. Peter M says Conor McCormack is on his way back to Cork City. Well, that's very good if he is. Really getting the band back together down there with Stephen Beattie down there as well. But Peter M says as well, he says Kenny wants to play football, Big Sam does not. 2 completely different styles, so I don't think it makes any difference if O'Shea is with Big Sam when it comes to Ireland. I don't really know if that kind of contrasts what you're saying there. You're saying the two of them are different, and then saying that it wouldn't make a difference.
Well, they are.
I don't. What?
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
The reason I think that Big Sam's not going to be good for O'Shea's development is because he is very much, sit behind the ball and just defend. And if we do want to dominate possession like Stephen Kenny's trying to do with Ireland, then I don't think it's going to be good for him to kind of go and completely switch. Whereas I think in the next couple of seasons, and he gets to play for a team where he might get to dominate possession, I think that will work better in his favour. That's all that was. In terms of, I obviously want to see West Brom stay up, so that's 2 more players in the Premier League for next year. So I would like to see that. But it's I just don't like Allardyce for what he did with Everton, and he didn't really show any ambition to try and he kind of thinks that he's bigger than clubs sometimes, and that's what I don't like him a bit for. Maybe it's more of a personal thing not between me and Allardyce, but my feelings towards Allardyce. I don't really like him. I thought when he was at Everton he was very disrespectful towards the fans and stuff like that, and just very negative. But for West Brom and for this season, all they want to do is stay up, and I get that. So, as I said, just for the year, and then ease him out, because that's generally what happens. He comes in, he keeps the club up, and then he has a little while and he's gone. In recent years, that tends to be the kind of story with him.
Yeah, so I mean, you're spot on with the coming to do a job. I mean, it's a situation West Brom were in dire straits. They were well adrift at the bottom. And at that stage, you're either calling for Tony Pulis or Sam Allardyce. And as Big Sam famously has never been relegated. I certainly like him a lot more than you do, Paul.
Yeah, but I get that you have a personal reason for them in Limerick, and I get that. I understand.
And I mean, you have the Everton reason as well. But and first of all, there's no doubt it's Darragh O'Shea will be playing a totally different style of football for Big Sam than he will for Stephen Kenny. Yeah, Stephen Kenny likes to bring the ball out from the back, to pass the ball. Big Sam certainly doesn't, right? He's brought in, as you say, he's brought in to do a job, and that's keep West Brom in the Premier League. and it's not going to be pretty, and his teams rarely play any pretty football, but they will be organised and they will be effective. And Darragh O'Shea will learn a lot about defending, organisation, concentration at the back. Yeah, he won't get as much time on the ball and time to bring the ball out, but that'll come as well. But I think, I mean, Sam's record speaks for itself, and he's been, 7 or 8 clubs? I think he's been in so many relegation battles with so many. And again, as I said, he's never been relegated, and he's rescued some lost causes. Okay, things didn't go well from at Everton, as you said, but he's a tough job, and actually to keep West Brom, this could be his toughest task of the whole lot. But I think he's going to give it quite a good shot. It was some win for them today, and now probably the bad news for them is, again, good news for Ireland, is that Brighton won, because you wouldn't want to see Brighton go down either, with Aaron Connolly and Jason Malumbi hopefully next season. But yeah, I still think it'll be good for Darragh O'Shea. I don't think the different styles of football would be too damaging for him, and once he's playing regularly in the Premier League, I think it's going to be huge for his development.
Yeah, someone's saying 1-0 there in the comments. So I haven't seen the goal yet, if it is 1-0. But anyway.
No, I haven't. I paused my BT Sports. So.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. Peter just said I had summed up what he was trying to say. Darragh's good, but in a 10 men behind the ball, Kenny doesn't want to play that way. Exactly. Just before we kind of continue, we haven't mentioned Manscaped yet, so just anybody who's watching this video is sponsored by Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com, use the code IFFTV for 20% off. They've got lots of different products there, from the Lawnmower 3.0, they've got deodorants, they've got cologne, they've got washing products, they've got loads of different stuff. A couple of people have got onto me this week asking, do you cut yourself when you're using the razor? Absolutely not. It's very, very easy to use. It's waterproof as well. You can use it in the shower, and it comes with an LED light, so you can get to those rougher edges, and you can, it's much easier to use than any other products you'll ever use. So head over to manscaped.com, use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping. And yeah, we have a little bit of a agenda here that we wanted to kind of go through. So first up is the Alan Kelly and Damien Duff scuffle or scandal, whatever you want to call it. Lots of reports coming out that they had a big disagreement. Obviously, the two of them have left now from Ireland's coaching staff. A bit of a disaster for Stephen Kenny. But what are your thoughts on it? And then we'll get into the journalists having the spat online as well about it.
Okay, so, well, it's never good news when you lose one of your backroom team, not to mind losing two. So it's not a good thing. It does clearly, from the reports I'm reading, it does appear to be over the video, but with different views. It certainly seems clear that Damien Duff was involved in helping compile the video, and that Alan Kelly had an issue with the video. And unfortunately, the fallout of this has led to both of them going. And well, it's bad news. I mean, it's a couple of them. I mean, first of all, I think we've talked about Damien Duff before. He's a really highly rated, talented coach, and he's a real student of the game. And he's somebody I think Stephen Kenny would certainly rely on for sounding board, etc., to bounce ideas off, tactics off. And he's going to be a big loss. Alan Kelly brings continuity. He's been goalkeeping coach and goalkeeper. He's been involved in the squad for the guts of 30 years now as a goalkeeper and then as a goalkeeping coach. And he's going to be missed by the goalkeepers. I know Darren Randolph in particular has a lot of time and values his input. And I think part of the issue that I've read is that Alan Kelly felt he should have been more involved on the tactics side, that maybe under Mick or under previous managers, that he wasn't just a goalkeeping coach, whereas very much for Stephen, Alan Kelly's work was with the goalkeeper. the goalkeepers, and that Stephen was working with Keith Andrews and with Damien Duff on the tactics for the rest of the side. So it's disappointing and sad to see them go, and it doesn't augur well. It'll be interesting to see who comes in as the replacements. There's been quite a few rumours, but I've seen nothing concrete yet.
Yeah, well, it seems to be that people are still trying to say that Alan Kelly was the person who leaked all that information as well out. But besides the point there, we can't actually factually say that's true. But
I think he's actually denied that, and I don't think he is the person that leaked it. I know there's been a lot of speculation and everything, and it can be the ultimate. But he has been around squads a long time, and I believe I've never actually met him, but I believe he's not the type of person to leak it. And there could well be a lot more to this. And even the story of the leak, it could. I think I've seen some speculation that it might be a lot more innocent than people think. That it's just a case of one of the players mentioning it to his agent, and the agent running to the English Daily Mail with it. And I think the most likely cause of the leak is probably an agent. And it may have been probably not as the leak may not have been a big story. I mean, people are pointing out maybe the leak was an attempt to undermine Stephen Kenny. It might have been just a bit more innocent than that, and an agent just giving a good story to a journalist he knew. Because you'd have to think if it was being leaked or undermining, it would be more likely to go to one of our own newspapers. But I don't know. I mean, it's. He is getting, and it's sad to see that someone who's been a great servant is getting some online abuse anyway, certainly.
Well, it seems as though Alan Kelly had a problem with the video. I'm pretty sure David Sneyd had said that on Twitter. But anyway, there seems to be a bit of a fallout towards. Basically, there seems to be a certain amount of the media are targeting Stephen Kenny and basically have an agenda that he's not doing a good job and whatever, and then there's others who are sticking up for him. Obviously, he's had a lot of issues with COVID. He hasn't had his first choice team once. I think since he's taken over, he's had a lot of players taken away from him. I think in some ways that's been good because he's had a look at everybody, so he kind of knows what he could get off most of the squad. I know results haven't been great at all, and obviously the lack of goals. But again, he's only working with what he's got. He hasn't really complained. I think other managers previously would have been complaining constantly about what they've had and whoever. But Paul Lennon, it seems, had put something up on the Star, and David Sneyd didn't seem to be too impressed by it, and basically called him out over it. And then the kind of Gavin Cooney and Dan McDonald all started to get involved, and it seems to be like it was Philip Quinn and Paul Lennon had basically tried to make out that, I think it was Coleman was humiliated for doing a press conference or whatever. Are you still there?
Yeah.
He was saying that Coleman was humiliated by doing a press conference even though he wasn't starting and stuff like that. Just things like that which kind of swing and sway people that type of way. But I think Dan McDonald had pointed out that Robbie Keane had been on the bench a few times and had no problem doing the press conference and all. It was basically a nothing story that they were trying to make something of. That's from what I can make of what was said online.
Yeah, so I've been following I suppose what do you call it, the online spat. Although I don't think I don't think Paul Lennon's that active online, but I did see the story in the Star.
Well, he wrote it on the paper, didn't he?
Yeah. So I did see it in the Star that Seamus Coleman, for the Bulgaria away game, that as captain he was made do the press conference as opposed to volunteering to do the press conference, and there was issues there. Now, look, as always with these, I know that's been denied as well. So look, we never really know what went on in that situation. It's it does seem to be that certain journalists certainly probably don't think Stephen is the man to manage. the country, and others, I think, are prepared to give him more time, or still firmly believe that he is the right man for the job. And I suppose time will tell. It's we'll never really know what went on. I know it seems to be very strong now that Seamus. People seem to be saying that Seamus actually did want to do the press conference, even though Stephen had told him he wouldn't have been starting in Sofia. So I don't know where the story came from, where or what the truth, the exact truth is behind this. Maybe there was an issue. Maybe it was sorted out. Maybe there never was an issue. I do know there are people who have already made their mind up that Stephen is not the right man for the job. Now, I think that's harsh. I think he should be given more time. As you say, results haven't been great, but it has been a very difficult time with COVID, with injuries, and he hasn't had the players available to him. And but unfortunately, international management, no more than we were talking about Premier League management earlier on, it's pretty unforgiving. And I certainly think Stephen should be given this campaign. And that does not mean I expect us to qualify. It's not a case of qualifying for the World Cup and keeping your job, because I think qualifying for the World Cup is a big, big ask. But I think we will need to see progress in this campaign. We will need to see positivity. We'll need to see some good results. And then I think the problems will go away. I mean, we go on and talk about the video. Part of the problem with the video has been the results. If we were winning games, I don't think the video would even be talked about. But because things are not going right on the field, people are looking for something else to cause issues to discuss. And the video becomes a story. Whereas had we gone to Wembley and won and were beaten Wales and beaten Bulgaria, then the video wouldn't even have got a mention. So it is... unfortunately, we are where we are with the results, and Stephen is under pressure. I would certainly like to see him be given more time. He hasn't had any crowds at games. He hasn't had the players that available that he'd like to have available. And but I think at best things have got to improve pretty quickly. And well, we'll see how this World Cup campaign pans out. And I hope that there will be some understanding as well, because I think expecting us to qualify for this World Cup is a very big ask. And I don't think if we had Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho managing the team that we'd probably qualify for Qatar. So, but I would expect that we would be a lot better in 2021. And we're going to see quite a few of these exciting young players that we have coming through. It does appear like we're going into a good time for young quality Irish players coming through. We're talking about Darragh O'Shea, the likes of Jay Malumbi, Aaron Connolly, Jason Knight. I mean, there's so many, Josh Cullen, so many good quality young players. And Will Small...
goal, 1-0, Madison.
Okay, missed that. Okay.
Sorry, what were we saying?
Yeah, just talking about the quality young players that we have coming through, and it could be potentially a great time to be a fan of our team. And well, we'll see what this year and future campaigns bring.
Yeah, I just think I have the tweets up here. So Philip Quinn's tweet was: Stephen Kenny has lost the second member of his senior ROI staff with respect to goalkeeping. Alan Kelly following Damien Duff out the door. I think he meant to say goalkeeper. He said something clearly amiss with ROI management setup. And then a couple of people, Stephen Henderson and a few others, that came out saying, you know, the journalists have their knives sharpened. And then the other one was Paul Lennon. So the headline was: to humiliate any player, never mind the skipper, in this way is truly unbelievable. And then it was saying Coleman snub, one of many errors Ireland boss has made. So for me, like, it didn't come across to me that Shane, like, I'm pretty sure Seamus is the type of person who'd speak out and speak his mind. You know, he's the captain of Everton, he's the captain of Ireland, so and he's a senior member of staff. He doesn't seem to be one that causes trouble, or he's very respectful. But I think he would stand his ground. And I think it's a non-story, to be honest. I think Dan McDonnell had came out then as well and said that like it's a bit of a non-runner. Jerry Malone had originally put it out there. So they're all kind of having a kind of a scuffle amongst each other about the different things. Personally, I back Stephen Kenny. I want to see him given the World Cup campaign. I can't go off what they're all saying. You don't know who to believe in terms of what was actually said. A lot of stuff goes on behind those closed doors and you don't know what actually to believe. But look, Stephen Kenny is the manager there. It doesn't seem like he's done anything wrong. Duff was involved with the video, as you said. So, you know, if Duff and Kenny were involved in the video and it seemed to be just a motivational video, then you know, I'm fully behind Stephen Kenny. As you said, if it was results, if Ireland had won that game, who would have cared? Nobody would have cared. It's just the fact that we haven't been scoring and we haven't been winning games that it's just it does feel much more abysmal. Again, fans aren't at games, so I think like Celtic at the moment, I think a lot of fans who can't go to games are taking their frustration out on line, and they're probably going a bit over the top now. I know for Ireland the results have not been great and I respect that, but we got to remember that COVID has literally riddled the squad and he's had to trim down the squad so many times of what he actually wanted. So I don't think we can really be judging him until he's been given a full campaign. If it doesn't work out in the campaign, then fair enough. But people are talking about getting all these people in and thinking that the FAI have loads of money. Even if Stephen did a really bad job, the likelihood is he'll probably still be there because they can't afford really, unless it doesn't seem like they can afford to, not that I would know their finances, but that they can afford to sack him either way. Not that I want to see him sacked or anything like that. I would like to see him come in, do well. The younger players in the under-21s would likely be promoted. They seem to love him. So I just hope that he's allowed in March have the squad that he would actually like to have and then go from there.
Yeah, look, I think everyone would like Stephen to be a success. And as you say, I think part of the issue has been that he was unlucky that he ended up with the playoff as his third game. Now, I thought we were a bit unfortunate to lose in Bratislava, and we had a couple of chances to win it, lost in penalties. Otherwise, the original plan was for Stephen to have the Nations League as a not so important competition, maybe just important to avoid relegation, which we did, and use it as a chance to blood players. Now, with COVID and with injuries, he probably got to play a lot more players than he wanted to or expected to. Now, that could come as a benefit to us down the line because players like Jason Malumbi, Darragh O'Shea, etc. came in and did really well and took to international football like a duck to water. But as you said, look, the results haven't been good. We've only managed 1 goal in 7 games. So unfortunately, allowing for the fact that 1 goal in 8 games, allowing for the fact that we had the playoff, which I know has caused more upset because I was desperate to see us play in a major finals at home in Dublin, and unfortunately that's gone now. And I think that put probably a huge level of expectation on Stephen very early in the campaign. Now it's gone, and unfortunately there's nothing we can do about it now. We do have Serbia coming up in March. I think this World Cup qualifying campaign is going to tell a lot. As I said, I don't expect it to be a case of qualify and keep your job. Obviously, if we qualify for the World Cup or even make the playoffs, I think it would be quite an achievement. But I would expect that we would have a positive campaign, that there would be green shoots, that there would be positivity. I go back to Michael O'Neill took over. He left Shamrock Rovers, came from the League of Ireland, the same as Stephen. Left Shamrock Rovers having done really well. First Irish team to reach the group stages of European football. Started off, and his first campaign in the 2014 qualifying campaign for Brazil, it did not go well. Northern Ireland struggled. He took 1 point out of 6 from Luxembourg. Struggled, dropped points, were well off the pace. But I think the fans in the IFA could see that there was positivity there was green shoots, they were playing well, and they stuck with him, and he got them to Euro 2016, which is the first time they'd qualified for anything in 30 years. And well, he's now since gone on to manage Stoke. Very unfortunate not to get them to Russia in 2018 as well. A very poor refereeing decision cost them in the playoff. But so hopefully Stephen will be as successful. Time will tell, but I think it's this World Cup campaign will tell a lot. And I think we'll be in a far, far better position to judge Stephen Kenny in November of this year. And at that point, if the results are still bad, I think it'll be very difficult for him to stay on. But if maybe not the results, the performances, because I think that is key. And I think we want to see progress and see some good performances. And because it is going to be, I mean, Portugal are a top side. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to win this World Cup group. I think Portugal are going to win it, no matter who we have as manager. As I said, if we got Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola, I don't think they could win this World Cup group ahead of Portugal. But we have a real chance of coming second and earning a playoff, or at least pushing Serbia very, very hard for second place. And I would like to see the players coming through some very encouraging performances, and hopefully that if we're sitting down in November, December, this time next year, that we're going to be looking forward to playoffs, and who knows, maybe we can qualify for Qatar that way.
Yeah. Well, again, I would agree with you. It's a time thing, really. It's just coming up to half time, funny enough, in the game there. It's 1-0 to Leicester at the moment. I'm just going to go through a couple of comments here before I go back to what else I had there on my list. So a couple of people said, just going back up, so while we were talking, where is it? It says, Ticket Slave says, hopefully Will Ferry kicks on a bit similar to Smallbone did. Bench today and still very young. Yeah, he looks good. I've seen a couple of his clips from the under-23 games and stuff at Southampton, and he looks good. I think the next couple of years will be key, but I think Hasenhüttl has shown that he will give youth a chance, so let's just see how that one plays out. Have you anything to mention on Will there before I go through other comments?
Yeah, I mean, if he was to come on today, it probably would be for Will Smallbone on the left side of midfield, the left wing. Maybe if they're chasing the game, they might look for Will Ferry. He might be more attack-minded, but it's probably more one for the future, yeah. But as you say, Paul, he has a very good manager there in Southampton, and hopefully he will get the chance to kick on and develop. Maybe he needs to go out and loan for a few months. That might help him to go to a Championship or a League One club and just get some game time playing men's football, because that's huge for any player's development, and they really do. It brings players on a lot more than playing under 23 football, where it can be very nice, it can be very pretty, but you get more time in the ball. But sometimes you need to go actually into the real cut and thrust, and you get guys kicking you up in the air and everything like that. But it does toughen you up, it does develop you, and it does help players.
Yeah, and he's also a subscriber to the channel as well. So if you're watching and you're not a subscriber, you know what to do. So he also follows us on Instagram, so Irish Football Fan TV, if you're not watching already, or if you're not following already. Game Troller, I think this one will be more for you, Gary, because I don't go to away games. Do you guys believe in coronavirus? If so, will you be getting a vaccine passport so you can go see football matches abroad?
Yeah, well, I would get the vaccine as quick as I can. I've been very, very fortunate so far to avoid the virus, thankfully, and I hope I can keep it that way. I mean, I know so many people at this stage that have got it, friends, family members even. So yes, as soon as the vaccine is available to me, I will queue for it, absolutely. And I know there's been talk of a vaccine passport, etc. I'm not sure if that's actually been firmed up or what's going to happen, but yeah, if needs be, I would definitely get the vaccine and get a vaccine passport. I actually had to have a test for the game in Bratislava. I was only allowed into the game with a negative COVID test. You know, the test isn't very pleasant for anyone who's done it. They stick a swab back your throat and up your nose. But I'd also be happy to do that again if it helps to attend games. But ideally, I'd like to get the vaccine as soon as possible, and hopefully we can all get vaccinated and get back to living normal lives and attending games and full houses and crowds and travel and everything. So yes, hopefully the sooner the better.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And as you say, having fans back at grounds, I think would be a huge thing. I think that would help Stephen Kenny a lot more as well. I've often said about, the Irish fans sucking the ball into the goal. I feel like, I was looking earlier on at Matt Doherty's goal against Denmark and how the crowd really drove us on towards the end of that game. And I know we only got the one goal. I know they had scored through Braithwaite, but I felt as though the crowd really pushed us on. And we ended the game obviously on the attack, and we looked like, I think if Enda Stevens had tried to got that shot on target, maybe we would have won the game, but it is what it is, with the defender's shot. But I do feel as the crowd really drove us on. Same with Switzerland at home. So I do think as soon as the fans are allowed back, the better. I think that would benefit the team and the manager. Just quickly there, Lenny Plays says, thoughts on Bastian Healy signing for Bowes. Do you want to go first on this one, Gary? I'll let you go first.
Sure, yeah, because we had him in Limerick. We brought him into the League of Ireland, and he actually took a little while to develop or to excel. His first few months, he probably didn't fit in, and suddenly I think partly his wife and family actually came over from the UK as well, which helped him a lot. And his second season, he was really superb. He is a lovely, lovely footballer, a ball-playing midfield player. He's very good on the ball, very good passer of the ball, very good running on the ball. Very disappointed to lose him to Waterford. And I know he did very well up there. Went up north to Linfield and played really well. They had a fantastic run in Europe. And they were actually quite unlucky not to get to the group stages of the Europa League in 2019, I think it was, when Qarabag beat them on away goals in the qualifying round. And he seemed to be playing really well for them. So it's a real coup for Bowes. I think there were reports that he was going to Pats, and I think Bowes fans, or Bowes seemed to have, well, I'm only going by reports, but it looks like Bowes seemed to have nipped in at the last minute and taken him. And I think it's a great coup for them. I think he will be a big hit he's a big hit with fans because he's just so good on the ball, and he passes the ball so well. And I think it'll suit Bowes, it'll suit Keith Long. And yeah, I think it's a great signing for Bowes, although Pats fans will probably say we never really wanted him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But they did get Zambone, Pats did. But I think Bowes getting Heary was obviously, I think it was something as well that they needed because they'd gotten rid of so many big players. I mean, Mandrew left. Andre Wright's been training at Kilmarnock. I know that deal didn't go through, that he didn't sign for them. But they had been losing players. Danny Grant. There's been big players that they've lost. I think it was key for them to get someone like Heary in there. He was a big name, well known. The league. Water fans absolutely adore him, and we're dying to have him back. Pats, as you say, they'd agree to fee, and then the deal was hijacked by Bowes. Again, that'll be something Bowes will be proud of, the fact that they got that player before St. Pat's as well. So I think that's definitely a coup for Bowes, and I think he'll be a really good addition to their side as well. Him in there alongside Bucco in the midfield. That's a very good midfield in my opinion. So yeah, there you go, Lenny. The Toffees for Life says, great show lads, tuning in live from Kathmandu, Nepal. Always love the content. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Yes. It's very late in Kathmandu, middle of the night there, is it? Yeah. Probably.
Peter Marr, I think Robbie Keane could be asked to come back in as part of the coach's staff. It could be wrong. No, it won't happen.
I think they would solve a problem for the FAI, but I don't think that's going to happen. It seems like what I'm hearing is that Stephen wanted very much to bring in his own people, and the likes of Keith Andrews and Damien Duff were very much his own people. He's lost Damien Duff. And I mean, there's been a few stories. I've seen the likes of John O'Shea, possibly Lee Carsley's been mentioned. And I think one of them is probably more likely than Robbie. That's not to say Robbie Keane may well be a future manager of Ireland. And I think that's what Robbie sees himself as. But I don't know. It could be proven wrong. It could be. I mean, obviously, this could change in the next couple of days. But for me, I don't see Robbie Keane being in Stephen Kenny's backroom team. But don't rule him out as a future manager of the country.
Well, what I said was, if that John O'Shea was to get promoted, that maybe Robbie Keane could work with Jim Crawford. But then I know that Stephen Kenny and Jim Crawford are quite close, so there's that as well. So I mean, you can twist it any way you want. You just that's just one. We just have to wait and see how it plays out. I think that's the fairest way of kind of dealing with that one. I think this is an interesting one, and and there's a follow up comment further down which kind of I would agree with. It just as that Kenny. Well, no, I don't agree with the first part. I agree with the second part. Then he needs a lot of media work. I do think there's times where he reminds me of me when I first started doing the channel, where, you know, I'd be forgetting what I was saying halfway through what I was saying and stuff like that. There is times in his press conference where I'm like, where's this guy going with what he's saying? And he's not really making sense. He's like overthinking things so much so that I think he's confusing himself sometimes. I think if he just kept it more basic, I think he'd be fine. But I think someone mentions it further down below, that, you know, he definitely needs media training. He reveals way too much. Needs to adapt to Brian Cody interview strategy and reveal less. Still think he's the man for the job. But I do think he's admitted it before. He's a bit too honest towards the media. He said that on press conferences in the past as well. I'm sure if you go back and look at some of them on our channel, that he has said it. You know, and I do think he could do it with some media training. I definitely feel like he could do it with some media training and just kind of be a bit more comfortable with press conferences and interviews and stuff like that. And I don't remember him ever being particularly bad when he was manager of Dundalk or something, but it just seems to be when he's in front of that room, in front of all those media personnel, that he kind of gets a little bit in a shell, I think, sometimes. Now, sometimes he can say stuff and you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this fella really knows his stuff. And then there's some days where you're kind of sitting there going, what? You know what I mean? He can confuse you some days, you know what I mean? And I love Stephen Kenny as a manager and as a man. I think he's a great man and stuff like that. So I don't want people to take it the wrong way and think that I'm, you know, slaughtering him here, because I'm not. I'm just thinking if he got a bit of media work, it might help him a little bit too. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's fair comment. I think even in his Dundalk days, when he was really successful and doing really well in the Europa League, etc., he wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't kind of great or as engaging in the press conferences, or you watch him and probably didn't enjoy doing them. I think maybe I'm assuming too much, but he probably just sees them as a necessary chore. And it's fine. I mean, managers can get away with not being very good with the media, because if you're successful, if you're winning games, you can say what you like. I mean, Jack Charlton was often not very good with the media, but I mean, the public loved him and we were successful. If I want to go back, and people have drawn comparisons with Brian Kerr, and I think this is where it could get dangerous, in that I think ultimately that's what cost Brian Kerry's job, because initially when he started out, he was great with the media, and then results started to go badly and made some mistakes in I think in particular the 2 Israel games, and he got incredibly defensive and wouldn't answer questions for the media. And the media do have to write and talk about things, and if you give them stuff to talk about, it makes their life a lot easier. If you don't give them something to talk about and the results aren't very good, the thing they're going to talk about is the manager being under pressure. And then if he's not doing well with the media, you kind of think maybe he is under pressure. It translates to the players. It puts more pressure on them. And it can become a vicious spiral. So that's, I suppose, can be a concern. But yeah, I suppose a little bit more media training mightn't go amiss. But ultimately, it's more of an issue when the results aren't going your way. I mean, if we start winning games, if we go to Belgrade and win, it doesn't really matter what Stephen says in the press conference afterwards, and nobody will care. I mean, we get the result, we're winning, and it's when the results are going the wrong way that then issues that come up in press conferences, etc., can get magnified. And it's like we were saying about the video earlier, and it's probably became a bigger issue because the results are going the wrong way. And I suppose ultimately it is down to results, and that's ultimately what Stephen Kenny is going to be judged on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Charles Abraham says, I believe Kenny is the right man. The players' morale have been low due to COVID, etc. I feel 2021 would be a better year for us. I hope that is the case. He's had an awful lot of bad luck, Keelan Flynn says. Should bring back a familiar face in Vinnie Perth in. I don't know, we'll wait and see who he does bring in. I think he told Vinnie Perth originally at Dundalk that he wasn't going to bring him, so I think that would just make it a little bit awkward. Chris Brophy says, hi Paul, hi Chris, how's it going?
Hi Chris.
Charles Abraham says, the man deserves a statue outside of the Aviva if he takes us to Qatar. You're probably right there.
Yeah.
Mick Killeen says, if we have quality players coming through, they need to be playing Premiership football. So far that's Dara O'Shea and Aaron Connolly. Well, excuse me, I think Knight is one that's probably going to be playing Premier League soon. And I know Malumbi's gone out to get first team football as well, so it will be interesting to see. I know today he was brought on as a late substitute in a defeat for Preston, but he needs to be playing games. I thought that was why he was going there, to be a player that goes in there and gets games, but he didn't play today. But I think Knight, he was made captain today by Derby, and we're going to be talking about him very shortly after we go through a couple of comments. But yeah, I think you're right. We do need players playing Premier League football, and especially goal scorers, as you said there. Aaron Connolly, or Charles said Aaron Connolly here. He says, I think Knight has a bright future. Connolly needs to score more considering all the game time he gets. Darrell O'Shea looks good. Kelleher looks good. Ida is average. Parrott has a good future. I don't think you can say Ida is average because he hasn't played that much football. I think that's not a very fair statement if you look at the overall scheme of things. I think Parrott's probably played more. I could be wrong on that, but I know Ida's been injured. He's just got COVID. I think he's over the worst of it now, but I think he'll be back in the next couple of weeks. Connolly, I don't think he plays that much as well. You got to remember when the coronavirus first hit, he was out injured and he was in an ankle brace, and then he came back kind of late towards the back end of the Premier League season as it was delayed further into the summer. So I think with Connolly as well, I think he's someone you have to be patient with. I think the game time he's played this season, he's been a lot better and a lot more efficient, but it was his first season last year, you got to remember as well. Kelleher looks good, yeah, I would agree. And the games that he's played, yeah, I really like him, and I hope he can continue to be like that. But just so Charles had just asked about Malumbi. Yeah, he went to Preston. Toffees for life. This must be someone taking the piss. He says, have you ever considered a modelling career, have a presence in front of the camera? I don't think so, Toffees for life, but I would say that's somebody I know that's an Everton fan saying that, taking the piss. But right, so this kind of brings me, Daniel Keegan has said it, and I know we were going to allude to it anyway. So, thoughts on Jason Knight, captain in Derby in Wayne Rooney's first, I suppose, game as the permanent manager. He retired from football yesterday. Brilliant career. England's all-time top scorer, Man United's all-time top scorer. Someone I looked up to when he was playing at Everton as a 16-year-old. I loved him as a kid, but he went on to have such a good career with Man United, England, Everton, and DC United. I think that's all the clubs I've listed. But if you look at what he's achieved in his career and how much he really, really likes Jason Knight, he made him captain in today's game. But as well as that, there's been lots of links on Jason Knight and should he move away. Burnley, Crystal Palace, West Ham have all been in for him. There's a lot of talk of Derby trying to sell players. At the moment, they're just trying to sort out a takeover, but they are looking to sell players to pay wages. I think they haven't paid wages in a month. So there's talk of offloading Jason Knight for a fee and another young lad as well. So I think it's interesting, but firstly, your thoughts on him as captain for Derby, what it means and how much of a big statement it is from Rooney to make him captain, and then we'll kind of talk about the clubs that he may go to.
Yeah, it's a huge statement. I mean, Jason Knight's still only 19. He's not 20 until next month. And to captain a club like Derby, and for a man of the stature of Wayne Rooney, who, as you say, Paul, was a superb player for Everton, Man United, and England, to make him captain is quite a statement. And frankly, I was shocked at somebody so young being made captain. It shows how highly Wayne Rooney thinks about him. And
19
I suppose
as well.
I wasn't even considering Jason Knight as being a future Ireland captain, at least not for a number of years anyway, but that he's already captaining his club. So, but as a player, he's been playing really, really well this season as well. I mean, he's been scoring goals, he's been starting and playing well in a team that, frankly, as you say, are struggling. I mean, there are issues in Derby. There is a takeover that's fallen through or hasn't quite happened. It may still happen. As you say, there's been issues paying the wages. I think it's the second month now the players were paid. Is it half wages or something like that? I'm not sure anyway. But there are certainly financial issues there. And it would be a shame if Jason Knight was sold just for financial issues to just become a squad player when he's playing so well and playing regularly with a manager that likes him. So I suppose the ideal scenario would be that the takeover happens. There's money there for Wayne Rooney, because he does seem to have done a really good job. He was there as caretaker manager and he arrested the slide. Now they are still in the relegation zone, and it was a terrible home defeat today by Rotherham, who've actually gone above them. But I mean, and had Derby even held on for a draw, it was a late goal, had even held on for a draw, they would have moved out of the relegation zone. So I think absolute priority for a club like Derby is to definitely avoid dropping down to League One. But I think that'll happen if the takeover happens and Wayne Rooney gets a little bit of money to spend and bring a couple of players in. And I suppose my own view would be it would be great if Jason Knight was playing in the Premier League, yes. It might be a big ask for him to go at 19, even as captain of Derby and even as a regular starter, to go to a West Ham, to a Burnley, the Crystal Palace, and just walk into their team and be playing regularly in the first team. Do I think he's good enough? Yes. I think he's definitely one of our brightest hopes for the future. And there's a lovely dynamism, or there's lovely, just so much energy in the way Jason Knight plays, and he scores the goals, which is so crucial for an Irish team at the moment. And so, I mean, my thoughts on him I would be happier if he stayed with Derby, I suppose, and played for the rest of this season. There's no way I'd like to see him drop down to League One. Next season, maybe get a move to the Premier League, but hopefully at a stage where he's considered a starter, or at least to get a lot of game time with the club in the Premier League. I think he's more than good enough. But maybe it wouldn't do him any harm to spend another few months at Derby, being managed by one of the greatest players of all time in English football, which Wayne Rooney was. Time will tell whether he will turn out to be a great manager. I mean, some great players fail miserably at managers, but some do go on to become excellent managers as well. And certainly Wayne Rooney started off pretty well, notwithstanding today's defeat. But it's a tough one for him at Derby, tough one for Jason Knight. But I suppose ultimately, if Derby need the money and they have to pay the players' wages, they will sell any assets they have. And Jason Knight seems the obvious person that they would sell.
Well, I think the one thing that Rooney's got is the fact that he was a young wonder kid, and he will probably know what's best for Knight in terms of, being young and being highly thought of and pressure on you and stuff like that. And he seems to be relishing the pressure. He seems to be doing very well under the pressure. But I think with Rooney having been there and done it as someone as a young prodigy coming through, I think it's a perfect person for him to learn off right now. And the fact that he was teammates with him and stuff like that. So I think he won't be as harsh on Knight as, say, maybe a Sean Dyche or somebody like that. Now, I think if he did go to Burnley, he would have Robbie Brady there with him. But it's just the style of play in which Burnley play, I think he said. Whereas maybe at West Ham, that would suit him a bit more. But would he start there? I don't think he would right now. that's not to say he wouldn't go and be a star in the future in the Premier League, but I think, as you said, now would probably be the wrong move. And to finish the season with Derby, maybe help them stay up if they can sort out their money issues. I mean, if he's not getting paid or whatever, you couldn't really blame him for leaving. But in terms of a development sense, I would like to see him stay at Derby for the rest of the season. Or if he signs for a club and they loan him back, that would be ideal as well. Just to see how he gets on for the rest of the season. I just don't think that he should be jumping up to the Premier League right now unless he's guaranteed to be a starter for a club. And as you said, of those clubs and the way they play, is he going to be a starter? I mean, I know Jason could play he can be like a wide midfielder or centre mid as well. So if he went to Crystal Palace, he'd be trying to compete with James McArthur and probably James McCarthy. And then if he's playing out wide right or wide left, he's playing Eze or Zaha maybe in front of him as well, or Townsend. So there is all those players there that he'd be vying for the competition. I'm sure if he was given long enough, he could get in the team. But it's the matter now of he's actually playing for first team football, captaining Derby. So ideally, I would like to see him stay at Derby, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that'd be my thoughts as well, Paul. I would like to see him play at Derby. I would like to see him playing regularly, because I think he's another player that will probably start in Belgrade. If Stephen was picking his team now, I would imagine, based on form, he would be looking at Jason Knight as one of his midfield three.
Yeah, the comments are still flying in. We'll go through some other transfer talk in a few minutes. I'll just see what other comments is there. Micheline says, Rafa Benitez said, as far as media goes, you say the opposite to what you really think. Simon Campbell says, thoughts on Brown staying at Preston? Think he needs a move personally. Reckon he could have went to a better championship club or even a lower Prem outfit. I think with I've just rambled on there a bit, so I'll let you give your opinion on Alan Brown signing a new, I think it was a 3.5-year deal with Preston there during the week.
Yeah, I mean, just because you signed a 3.5-year deal doesn't mean that you won't get sold on or moved on. I mean, if Alan Brown really, really impresses with Preston, he could still get a move to a Premier Division club, or he could even get up to the Premier Division with Preston, although I think that's probably unlikely in the next couple of years. Alan Brown seems to be playing well for Preston, playing regularly. He's scoring a few goals. So I don't see it as being a bad thing. My own view is if a player is playing well and he's happy, it's a good sign. There's a lot of good Irish players at Preston as well. And so I'm happy to see him there. I think you'd probably... I mean, I've been talking about Jason Knight and as somebody who can move up to the Premier League. Alan Brown's a little bit older. He's probably more established in the Championship. But I don't know if he's done enough yet to show... He hasn't done badly for Ireland, and he's a good option for us. But I don't think we've seen enough of him yet, or I haven't seen enough of him in the Championship to say that Premier League clubs should be coming in and signing him. But I think the reality is any player that's playing really well in the Championship, if a Premier League club comes calling, the fact that they've signed a 3.5-year contract won't be the stumbling block to go to the Premier League, because there's just so much money in the Premier League. They can get any player they want. Any Premier League club can go down to the Championship and more or less pick any player they want, and the transfer and everything will be sorted out, because just the money differential is too much.
Just what you're saying, that Will Smallbrown looks like he's pulled up with an injury there. He's on the ground there getting treatment at the moment. It looks like he fell awkwardly on his ankle, but he seems to be kind of holding his leg or his knee there. But hopefully he'll be
his
okay.
Knee. I see the physio's checking the knee. I hope he'll be okay. He looks in a bit of pain.
Because the way he fell, it's probably ligaments.
That'll be a big disappointment now if he was to be out for a few weeks.
Yeah, Hasenhüttl looks like he has to make a sub. Just excuse me. There's just D. Beckham says, guys, very well done. Being in football and media circles, I watch a lot of these fan channels and having been tipped off from a former Irish teammate, I've been impressed by your work. Well done, gents. I hope all is well in Miami, David.
Yeah, I suspect that could be somebody else, Paul, anyway. But yeah, I just see it. He fell awkwardly there, yeah.
This question is to Gary Spain. How much is Bill Gates paying you? That must be about the
vaccine.
The vaccine, yeah.
Unfortunately, not enough. But yeah, sure. Who knows if I get vaccinated? Maybe Bill will have control with these. I don't know. I think there's a lot of rubbish going around. Personally, I'd be very happy to get the vaccine. Very happy for my family to get the vaccine, and I think it'd be a lot safer. And I just want to get back to the normal life.
Kenny is an intelligent guy, but gets prickly with the media. I mean, Johnny C got under his skin, especially in 2017 World Cup build-up. Does that matter? Irish fans can be very fickle. He deserves a campaign. He also says Knight needs to be careful with the sale of Derby not coming. They will sell, and he could end up in a bottom 3 Prem team, be back in the champ, better off staying for the right move to a mid-table team. I mean, Burnley mentioned for who he's a bad move. I think he's trying to say that Burnley would be a bad move.
I actually
he corrected himself there. He says Burnley was mentioned for Knight, and that seems like a poor move. Yes, I would agree. What were you saying, Gary?
Yeah, I think actually Burnley would be a bad move, not even just from the relegation point of view, but just the style of football. I think Sean Dyche has done a very good job in keeping Burnley in the Premier League, and it looks like he's going to do it again this year. But just they're not pretty to watch. They don't play. Well, we're talking about West Brom. I mean, Burnley as well play a long ball, very much play the percentages. And I don't think that style of play will suit Jason Knight, who likes to get on the ball in midfield, make some runs from midfield, score some goals. And I don't think that would suit him. So I think somebody like West Ham or Crystal Palace would be a lot better option. Obviously, there is the risk if you go to someone like Burnley, you could get relegated. Although I don't see Burnley going down. I think they seem to. Well, I think Sean Dyche is an excellent manager, and they seem to have enough, and they probably will do enough to keep themselves in the Premier League. But it's more for footballing reasons. I'd like to see Jason Knight go to somewhere like West Ham, where David Moyes or Roy Hodgson at Crystal Palace, very good managers, but also play very good quality, good to watch attacking football. And I think either of those clubs would really suit Jason Knight. Another club that's mentioned is Leeds, and Jason Knight's energy and his eye for a goal would surely appeal to somebody like Bielsa. And again, could be another option. Would he be an option for Leeds?
Will Smallbones just took another knock there. He's down again. He just got a boot off one of their players there. He just got to the ball first and got a kick. But Peter M says, Knight being captain is so they can sell him off for more money. It is great for the boy, but let's not blow it out of proportion. He might be better off staying until the takeover. Yeah, I think a lot of these comments were wrote when we were talking about it. Daniel Deneen says, West Ham would be the best place for Knight since Rice will be gone in the summer and Mark Noble not being used much. I think, yeah, but that's why I go back to what I said. If the club do buy him, maybe loan him back to Derby till the end of the season so he's continuously still playing, because we need him playing for March. I think ideally he should be in the squad. Whether you think he should be in the starting 11 or not is your own thing, but I think if he is playing regular football, I think he needs to be at least in the squad. I think he's shown what he can do, and the fact that he's been made captain now as well, and just from the the game he played in the Aviva against Bulgaria, I thought he was really good. I know he gave the ball away a couple of times, but for the large parts he done everything else really well and was just getting around the pitch. Will Smallbone's just come off there as we're talking as well.
Yeah, I don't know about Declan Rice. I mean, Declan Rice plays a lot further back in the midfield. He plays kind of the holding midfield role. So, yeah, I saw he's been linked with Man United now as well as being linked with Chelsea.
Let's not talk about him too much.
No, okay. But if he did leave, I think it's probably a better option for another young Irish player is Conor Coventry, who could well be the person to fill that role. I think Jason Knight will be playing much more forward as much more of an attacking midfield player, and so yeah, maybe in the Mark Noble role, and yeah, that could be a good shout. That obviously Mark Noble is someone whose career is coming to an end, I suppose, or in the twilight of his career. So Jason Knight could do a job absolutely for somebody like West Ham. I would like to see him with a manager like David Moyes, I think, who would develop him. But hopefully he would, if he does go there, that he gets game time.
Yeah, couple of comments there. Alan Brown was meant to be sold to Wolves. That was the noise around Cork last summer. He was in the last 6 months of his contract. They just paid 100k for his buy-on. He will be sold next summer. Yeah, we'll wait and see. He hasn't impressed me. I think I've said that in the WhatsApp group, Gary. He just, for me, he doesn't do it for me. I hope he proves me wrong. If he does get a move to a Prem club, brilliant. And then I hope that he goes on to keep proving me wrong and keep being an excellent player for Ireland. But just so far, I just haven't seen much from him in the performances for Ireland. And, you know, I know Preston fans love him, and I get that, but I haven't watched enough of Preston to see why they love him, if you get me. So I think if he did get a move to a Premier League club, we probably see him more as well. So I think that's a fair comment.
No, I think I probably have more. I know we had this debate ourselves, Paul, prior to offline. I would be more of a fan of Alan Brown than you are. I think he does offer.
I don't hate him, so don't make it out like I hate him.
No, but I think he is someone I would have in the squad, and certainly in contention for a place in the team. Probably in a very similar role to Jason Knight, and I probably would have Jason Knight ahead of him. But I think he's someone who can do a job for us. And it would be great if he got a move to the Premier League and was starting regularly. But I was still, as we said earlier on, I was happy enough for him to sign a new contract in Preston and for him to be playing regularly in the Championship. And he is someone who is worth his place in the squad, and he does have something to offer. And he does, like Jason Knight, have an eye for a goal as well, which we probably could do with somebody coming through from midfield with a goal.
But does that not tell you what you already need to know? That you have Knight already ahead of him. So I think that shows that he hasn't done it.
Well, they're both playing regularly in the Championship, so yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. Alan Brown is still relatively young. I'm trying to think what age he is now, but you can check it and tell me. But
I'll check there if you want to continue about him there.
Yeah, but I mean it's not as if we have anybody stand out in the Premier League playing in that type of an attacking midfield role. 25, yeah. So I mean, it's still relatively young. He's just coming into the peak. In the next 2 or 3 years, he'll be at his peak. I probably would be very disappointed if Jason Knight was still playing with a mid-table Championship team when he's 25. So I think there's far more potential in Jason Knight. I'd certainly say that. But Alan Brown has never left us down, and I wouldn't be ruling him out. And I think he's certainly good enough to be in our current squad and to be in contention for a place in midfield. And so that's probably where I see him, Paul. I don't see him being a great superstar. I don't see him moving to a top Premier League club. I wouldn't rule it out that he could move to the Premier League and play for a couple of seasons in the Premier League. I don't think that's realistic with Preston. Funnily enough, even though Derby are well behind them in the table, you would think that a club like Derby County, with a manager like Wayne Rooney, with a proper board to back him, could well be a Premier League club obviously not next season, but maybe the season afterwards. If they do avoid relegation, they could be the kind of club that would certainly challenge next season, if not get promotion or challenge for promotion. But I do have Jason Knight ahead of him, and I know he's 6 years younger than him. But having said that, Alan Brown is a valuable member of the squad, and I think he will go on to get a number more caps for us, and he will do a job for us.
Yeah, I mean, I as I said, I'm not saying that he's terrible. I'm not saying he's brilliant either. I just said I'd just like to see more from him. I just think a lot of the time he's just there, a bit like Hendrick in recent times, and just doesn't do much. Like, you expect to see him do something, he never really does. Is that because he's been told to do a specific job? Like, I mean, in most games, I remember under Mick, he was kind of playing as an attacking player, but he was defending from the front almost. So I think that could be something as well. But I just haven't seen him do much for Ireland. I would like to see him do a bit more, put himself about a bit more, because he just and even with his interviews and all, he just kind of seems like he doesn't want to be there and stuff like that. So not that he doesn't want to be with the Ireland camp, he just doesn't want to be in the media mix zone or whatever. He just is, for me, I just want to see him do a little bit more. The way I see Knight get around the pitch, and the way I see Knight getting at teams like Bulgaria that night, you know, I'd just like to see Alan Brown a bit more bite about him. That's all, really. I don't think he's a bad player, as I said. I just wish he'd do a little bit more. I think someone's... Yeah, I'm getting slaughtered here over Alan Brown. Just reading there. There's one. I'll come back to me getting slaughtered there by Alan Brown. Liam McNamara, if Will Smallbone starts playing regular football, surely he needs to be given a cap ASAP. Yeah, but the thing is, he hasn't been playing regularly. So until he is, then there's no point in capping him. I mean, it's all this talk, will he go to England and all this. I think if we really want him to play for Ireland, but he hasn't done anything really right now to warrant a cap. I think I'm just speaking there about players who need to do more. I think Smallbone maybe needs to do more, but he is quite young. I'd give him a couple of seasons and then see where he's at in terms of his development. But it's a good sign that he's getting picked in Premier League teams as well. You know what I mean? So, how do you feel about Smallbone, Gary?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you couldn't really expect Stephen Kenny to have capped him by now because he hasn't had that much game time in the Premier League. And I suppose this goes back to discussion we had about Jason Knight. I mean, Jason Knight is playing week in, week out. He's now captaining Derby. He's scoring goals in the Championship. Will Smallbone is in the Premier League, which is a level up, but he's been on the bench. He's been in the squad. He's been there or thereabouts. Great, he got the start tonight. Now, hopefully the injury isn't too serious, but... you can be in the Premier League, and if you don't get the chance to play every week, it can be hard to develop. It can be very hard to impress Stephen Kenny. I mean, certainly Will Smallbone has the talent, clearly, and it would be fantastic if he was playing regularly for Southampton. But if not, at his age and his development, then maybe he needs a spell on loan. That's why Jason Malumbi going to Preston was such a good bonus, because he did so well for Ireland, but then didn't get a look in with Brighton. Now, it's hard to criticise Brighton because they're getting results, but it's very frustrating from an Irish point of view, seeing they've got this really talented young Irish player and you'd love to see him get more game time. So I don't think you can justify giving Will Smallbone a cap, or certainly not in a competitive game, which I think is what Liam is talking about, trying to get him tied to us. And I think those rules are changing anyway with age and everything like that you're no longer tied or whatever. Anyway, I'm not 100% clear. I don't want to talk about them on the video now without doing more research. But I don't think it's realistic to talk about Will Smallbone being in the team for Serbia or Luxembourg. Possibly if he got to play a bit more regularly for Southampton, then that could change. But as of now, I can't say to cap him ASAP.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Charles Abraham says, how is Jack Byrne doing in Cyprus or wherever he is? Haven't seen him since the FA Cup final. He's on a training program, regime over in Cyprus now with Joe Garner, and the two of them are just basically on a pre-season kind of training, it seems, that sort of regime, and it seems as though he'll be probably included, I'd say, next week or the week after, and then he'll start getting game time. I think that's the best way to kind of do that without getting into it.
Yeah, he got 5 minutes off the bench under Mick, and
yeah, but he wasn't fit.
He wasn't fit. Yeah, exactly. So it is a case of getting him match fit. I do see that results have improved a little bit under a new manager. They got a win and a draw. So it's probably much less likely they're going to get relegated. But they have a massive Cypriot Cup match coming up against Apollon, the league leaders, because Apoel's only route into Europe now is through the Cup. And for such a big club not to be playing in Europe would be a real disappointment. And obviously we want to see Jack playing at the highest level and hopefully in the Europa League for Apoel.
Yeah, as well as that, he was also the best player against Apollon for Rovers there a few years ago in the Europa League at Tala. Jack was, so I hope that he can replicate a similar performance. Peter M is not happy with me. He says, Paul, FFS, if you haven't watched Preston, that's your dub bias because he's a Cork boy. He has played holding centre and in the 10, also filled in at right back, a cracking player, and 23. He's actually 25. And no, it's nothing to do with him being from Cork. John Egan, I want to see start. I like Conor Howrahan. So I think you're just saying that for the sake of saying it. But anyway, look, if he proves me wrong, happy days. There's no actual personal thing there between me and Alan Brown. I just want to see him do well. That's all I'm trying to say. Stop hating on me. Look, there's Dazza. He's going at me now. He's saying, hey, Paul, Alan Brown hit the post a couple of times for Ireland recently. He looks like the only player capable of scoring ever, but he didn't score.
He scored against Bulgaria, wasn't it, in the friendly?
Is that a penalty or?
Don't think so. I think it's just a free out, is it?
He's offside, apparently. Okay. Yeah, but he didn't score in the. Yeah, he scored against Bulgaria. That was when Jack Byrne made his debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
that's September 2019. That was under Mick. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter now. But anyway, would you not do a watch along for the snooker masters? Nah. Charles says everyone's slating Paul. Yeah, Charles. A few people you think would stick up for me. Dazza says you're right about Brown.
Thanks, Dazza.
Dazza obviously doesn't have a clue.
we got all the Munster people around, Limerick and Cork, getting together with this.
Where are all the Dublin people? And why are they not backing me up here? Someone says Simon Campbell says rather have Brown than Howrahan. Gets around the park, offers more overall. Don't think we can afford to have a player like Howrahan. Offers little other than set piece. I think Howrahan has done a decent job in that holding midfielder for I know it's not a glamorous position, but I think he does receive the ball well and he does look to switch the play and kind of get us in more advanced areas quicker than probably James McCarthy did in that position. But I still think we're lacking in that department. I'd probably start Josh Cullen in that position if I was going off current form. But Gary, how do you feel about those two lads, the Cork boys as well?
Yeah, so
you would know.
I think they're different players. I mean, I know one of the comments there was Alan Brown has played in so many positions for Preston, but I suppose I see him as more of an attacking midfielder. Conor Howrahan could play, as you say, as a number 6, Paul, as a holding midfielder, and as more of a number 8. But he does have, to me, more defensive duties. I mean, he has played. He's got quite a bit of game time in the Premier League. Unfortunately, he's lost his place now at Aston Villa. But Villa have been doing really well, and I see he's been strongly linked with a loan move to Swansea, which I think could be very good for his development. And I was just actually reading online today, and I think they see this as a very positive thing. A lot of the Villa fans are really unhappy about this, and they see him as being a valuable squad member. Not necessarily calling for him to start, but they say he's a valuable player to have on the bench. And they do see the value in the work he does. But unfortunately, he's lost his place. And I think the Swansea side who are doing really well, pushing for promotion. They could well be in the Premier League next season. If he goes there, plays regularly, gets some game time, it can only be good for Ireland. Yeah, he's an option for the holding midfield position, and he's an option for the forward for Ireland. As you say, we've Josh Cullen as an option, and we've James McCarthy as well, who hopefully probably would be my choice if he's fully fit and playing regularly in the Premier League. I think he's just got that little bit of extra quality. But I know James has had so many issues with injury and everything over the years. So it could well be between Conor and Josh for the number 6 role in Belgrade. And that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah. Just moving through the comments there as well. Peter M. Peter M seems to know everything. Peter M, if I need any information, I'm coming to you, mate. He seems to know it all. Players signing for Wolves and getting buyout clauses. Wolves signing Alan Brown. Peter M from Cork. He knows what he's doing, apparently. He says Smallbone will be scouted by the FA now. He is playing in the Prem. That's what the FA do.
Well, it is a point, because that is one thing the FA have changed, and it's bad news for us because they do more actively go after players. I mean, I believe he who should not be named, Paul, on this channel, in 2018 was brought to St George's Park, given a tour, met Gareth Southgate and Gareth Southgate took the time out before going to Russia for the World Cup to spend a couple of hours with the certain West Ham midfield player, and said he really wanted him to play for England. He saw him as a key part of his squad. And unfortunately, the FA are doing this. They're identifying players that are at risk of playing for other countries, younger and younger. And so I don't know if Will Smallbone is on their radar yet, but unfortunately in recent years, they have been doing things like this. And players that may well play for Ireland are ended up playing for England. Now, I think the bar currently is a lot higher to get in the England squad. So I think players that could play 1 or 2 games in the Premier League could well end up in the Irish squad long before they'd end up in the English squad. So time will tell, but he may not be wrong on that one.
Yeah, well, as you said, time will tell. He also said will there be 5 subs in the upcoming internationals? Might be worth banging a small bone for the last 5 minutes in a competitive game. I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard. I don't know if you know that, Gary, do you?
I think there is, but I can't remember for sure. I don't know if it's been confirmed.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I think there's someone taking the piss here. It's just Gary and Paul. Great viewing. Hi from Seville, Brian Johansson. Thanks very much for saying it was great viewing. And
thanks for the comments. It may not be the real person's real name, but thanks for the comments anyway, whoever you are. So.
Yeah. Jen Byrne says Alan Brown hasn't really been given a huge amount of games for Ireland yet. Give him time. I see good things for him being a green shirt. Simon Campbell says spot on, Jem. I'll come back to Liam McNamara's question for you, Gary, in a sec. Charles Abraham's backing me up, so Charles, I love you. Daza is from Dublin, but he's taking your side and Peter M's side. And then
we're all Irish anyways.
We're all Irish. We're all friends here, really. Look, there's no problem having a debate, and there's no problem having an opinion. So,
and I am living up. I'm living up here in Dublin for over 26 years now. So, I've spent half my life in Dublin at this stage.
Yeah, well, I think someone was from Dundalk there, or Charles is from Louth, but he was backing me up, and then Peter M says Louth is just a Dublin suburb. So there you go, and Charles even agreed. All right, just before I go back, I want to go back to Liam's comment specifically for you. Can you read that, or do you want me to read it out for you?
I can. On my thoughts on Jamie McGrath and his form. So, I haven't seen enough of Jamie McGrath to comment on his form. Unfortunately, I don't know, Paul. Maybe I know it's specifically from me.
I spoke about him the last night. That's why he's asking you.
Yeah. So I haven't seen enough of Jamie McGrath to comment on his form now. So I don't think I'm the person to. And I missed the stream the other night when the two balls were on. So I don't know what you said about him, but I haven't seen enough of him. So sorry, I don't think it's fair for me to comment, and I don't think my opinion on Jamie McGrath, not having seen him in the last 12 months, is really worth too much or seen enough of him.
Well, I have transfer market open up here. So it's saying he's made 21 appearances in the league, in the SPFL. Yeah. He's scored 3 goals. He's got 2 assists. Sorry, there's a video playing in me here. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists, and I think that's only in the league now. He's been in the starting 11 91% of their games in the league, and then he's played 84% of the minutes. He's 31% in terms of goal participation, and I'm going to just get his stats up. So he's got 7 goals in total and 3 assists for St Mirren. Obviously 2 of those goals, and he does take penalties as well. 2 of those goals were against Rangers to knock them out of the cup as well. I think that's their only defeat of the season so far. Conor McCarthy got the winner in that game as well, so 3 Irish lads scoring against Rangers. You love to see it.
So yeah, no, I mean, it is great that he's playing regularly, and but I don't actually watch that much, and I don't watch that much Scottish football on TV, and I haven't watched in any St Mirren games, and so yeah, it's hard to comment on his form. Yeah, the stats are good, as Paul said, but do I see him getting in the Irish squad from St Mirren? I think it's just too big a step. I think realistically, if you're playing in Scotland, you need to be playing with Rangers or Celtic to be competing for the Irish squad. Sorry, but that's I think the quality drops drops so significantly after that. And now, if he impresses, maybe get a move to a championship or something like that in England, and then I'd be considering him for the squad. But maybe I'm being harsh, and I know there's good contingent there in St Mirren, good Irish contingent, good Irish manager there, but I haven't seen them play, so I couldn't really comment on the form of any of them.
Well, you could comment on his assists and goals and say that.
Yeah, I mean,
probably better than Alan Brown's.
They're impressive stats, but it does depend on the level and the quality of the players they're playing against. Because, frankly, I think if the likes of Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers were in the Scottish Premier League, I think they'd do pretty well. I don't think they'd compete with Rangers and Celtic, but I think they'd be more than capable of holding their own or doing well against the other clubs.
Here's one that will make you laugh. So Ryan Johansson, I think, has changed his name there from David Beckham to Ryan Johansson to Mick McCarthy, because they've all had tea at the picture there. Great content, lads. I'm looking for a job, for any space for me on the team, Paul. You have my number. Best of luck, lads, and well done. I hope you're doing well, Mick. I'm sure I'll see you back in management very, very soon, Paul.
So
hang on now. I seen a funny comment down below there. I'll just go through. Gary, all you have to do is declare like Jack G. Don't need to play for England. I think he's referring to Smallbone there. Then Simon Campbell has a good one there. Too soon for Collins to make the squad. Having a good season for Stoke. I just think there's so many players ahead of him at the moment that I don't think we would need him. I think it would be kind of a wasted opportunity to have him in at the moment, unless injuries obviously play a part, because I still think that there's players ahead of me. You got to think Duffy, Egan, Long, O'Shea will probably be the first 4 kind of senior players, and then he seems to rate Lenihan as well at Blackburn, so you've got him as well. And I definitely say I'm forgetting someone there as well. So he does have a lot of players ahead of him in the pecking order that I just don't really see it unless injuries happen. I would like to see him get a cap just to see how we get on. I think he's a really good player. I just think now I just don't think we need him. Sorry, go on.
He's very, very highly rated, and he's playing well in the Championship. I haven't actually watched. I do watch a bit more Championship football. I do watch some of the highlights. So he does seem to have done. He does seem to be playing really well with Stoke. And he's got a very good manager there in Michael O'Neill, as any Shamrock Rovers fans will attest to that. And he's still very young for the centre half position. I kind of feel the players don't really come into their own till 22, 23, 24, because it is a tough, demanding position. But he's already doing really well. I saw him linked, I think it was about a year ago, that Man United or someone were even looking at him, and there was talk of a transfer. So that's how highly rated he is, and the potential that's there. But as you say, Paul, he's probably in a position which is a real position of strength for us, in that our strong points at the moment are at the back, and we have quite a few centre halves, and so he may miss out on the squad. But if he keeps playing so well for Stoke, it could get tough to leave him out. Maybe later in the campaign he could force his way in.
Yeah, I just think right now it just doesn't make sense. But a lot can happen in the next couple of months. Shane Long is on, by the way. I've seen a couple of people in the comments. Will Spalbone, he's done all right. He didn't do anything major. He didn't do anything wrong either. He looked like he took a couple of knocks and went off. Let's just hope it's not too serious. Darren O'Hartned, I hope I pronounced that right. He says, what do you think of Harry joining Bowes, lads? We discussed that earlier in the show. So maybe just go back and watch it. Not being smart saying that, just we're not going to go back and speak about it again. Someone, yeah, I'll tell you a funny story on this one, right? So Stazza says, Paul, did you ever get mistaken for Harry Kane? Right, so we were over in this is before the channel ever existed, but we were over in Canada coaching. Well, I was, and I was coaching for the summer there. So the 2 summers in Canada, it was 2015 and 2016. But we were on a place in Vancouver Island, and they're real gullible over there. And someone thought it was a good idea to call me Harry Kane, and this parent of one of the kids on the camp was coming up to me, and I actually thought I was Harry Kane. One of the other coaches thought I was Harry Kane, and he started coming up to me looking for autographs, and he was dead serious. And I just played along with it, and he was like walking off, and he was just getting pictures with me and all, thinking I was actually Harry Kane. So yes, I have been mistaken for him. And many other players. I used to get called Peter Crouch when I was younger, because I was a lot thinner then. I used to get called Peter Crouch. But I have had Ryan Gosling a few times, which I will take. But yeah, just on the Harry Kane thing, I just thought I would share that with you, Gary. I haven't told you that one before.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that one before. So now that you say it, I hadn't actually thought of it. I can see the resemblance. There's another player who could have played for us. Strong Irish links in Limerick, Galway, etc., and spent quite a few summers in Ireland. But unfortunately, the FA had him well scouted, and we weren't in time there.
He was never going to play for us though, like, especially obviously his rise was meteoric when Pochettino then came in. But just some of the other comments, I hope that made a couple of laugh anyway. So the dad was going around telling all his friends that he met Harry Kane, and it was me. But yeah, Gavin Doyle says, what do you think Troy Parrott should do to be starting for Ireland? Score goals. Just simply score goals. I think he'll still be in the squad if he's playing for Millwall regularly, because I think he just has that little thing different to our other players. He has that little bit of magic. I know he probably hasn't shown it with Millwall yet. I was looking up today. I think he was playing the left of a kind of a 3 up top today. He was kind of playing like a left wing forward. So look, I think the goals, once he gets one, I think he'll start getting a few. But it is good to see him getting a run of games without he should have squared that, Perez, without injury. So I think that's good. And look, I just hope he just keeps continuing to get game time and keeps getting development. What do you think, Gary? About Troy?
I think it's I don't think he should be starting for us yet, even though we do have the problems scoring goals. It is great to see him playing for Millwall and keeping his place. I know he's been kind of getting an hour, or coming on for half an hour, but he is getting a lot of time, as we talked earlier, in men's football, and it will be great for his development. Yeah, hopefully the goals will come. He definitely has the talent. He's a fantastic chance to really make it as a Premier League player. I mean, it seems like Millwall, I know they got a late goal today, but they were well beaten again. And it seems like they do have problems creating chances, not to mind scoring goals as well. I know we could be, being Irish, we're fine ones to talk about goal scoring problems, but it is good to see him playing regularly for them, and hopefully just things will click and then he get a goal, and then I think he could really kick on there. But it's good to see him get game time. As you said, I think he'll be in the squad. I don't think he'll be starting in Belgrade or against Luxembourg. Possibly come off the bench with 10, 15 minutes to go if we need a goal. But time will tell. There's a lot of football to be played. There's over 2 months to go to these matches. So the thinking now could be very different by the time we get to the 24th of March.
Yeah, the tackles are flying in here. Shane Long just took a knock there. He looks all right. He's just going to run it off. Peter Ames says he watched a good bit of Scottish football this year. St Mirren are a bit patchy, and McGrath has been the same. So has Connolly, but McCarthy at the has been very good at the back. So yeah, he says, but St Mirren are punching above their weight. And then Daza says, does the panel think we can beat Luxembourg in March? I think the panel would agree that we should beat Luxembourg in March.
It's actually it's actually a good question, because and it is a concern, and I'll tell you why. Because Luxembourg, I mean, certainly someone in my generation, Luxembourg have been total whipping boys, and they've taken some absolute
and mine
hammering.
to make you feel a little bit younger.
Right.
And
okay,
mine.
all right. Yeah, even in recent history, but in the last few years, football in Luxembourg, now club football's improved, but a lot of that's down to imports. But the national team has improved. And if you look at the last campaign, they were in a group with Portugal and Serbia. And while they lost the games, and the Ukraine as well, they lost a lot of games by the odd goal. They did reasonably well. So, I mean, I think we can beat Luxembourg. I think we absolutely must beat Luxembourg in March. That is an absolute minimum requirement. I could live. I don't want us to lose in Belgrade, but I don't think, and I think we can get a result in Belgrade. But realistically, I mean, a defeat to Serbia would not be a major shock, or certainly a major disaster, or would make it very difficult for us to get even the runners-up spot. But we absolutely have to beat Luxembourg in Dublin. But it's no gimme, because we have problems scoring goals, and they are well organised. They are a better team than the Luxembourg of 7 or 8 years ago. I mentioned that even in Michael O'Neill's first campaign for Northern Ireland, I think they drew in Belfast and beat Northern Ireland in Luxembourg. I think I'm correct in that. I think he certainly, if he didn't get 1 point out of 6, he didn't get any more than 2 out of 6 against Luxembourg. So it's no guarantee that we will beat them, but we can beat them. I think we're a better team than them, and ultimately that should be enough to beat them. But given our goal scoring issues, and given they're well organised, and if they were to nick something, if they were to go ahead, it could be a very, 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 very long day. Now, I even go back actually to the game under Jack, which is often forgotten about. We played Luxembourg at home in Dublin in September 1987, and it needed a late goal from Paul McGrath to actually beat them, and it was getting very, very nervous. And if that goal hadn't gone in, I think it was about 74th minute or something like that, in a small enough crowd, but if that goal hadn't gone in, there would have been no Gary McCoy, there would have been no Euro 88, because had we not beaten Luxembourg that day. Now, that was just one of those days we didn't play well, and they were much weaker then. So we obviously can beat Luxembourg. We should beat Luxembourg, but it's no gimme, it's no guarantee, and it is a worry that it could. And just I say it, Leicester have gone 2-0 up. But
see there, Harvey Barnes is through on goal here, scored. Yeah. Came over.
But but it is a good question, because it's no guarantee. But I think we will beat Luxembourg, but maybe just by the odd goal.
Yeah, well, the game is about to end, so I'm just going to run through the last few comments there. If there's some, because I don't want to leave anybody out in terms of their comments or whatever. There's some funny comments there as well. Will Sligo be a Brexit Everton feeder like Preston North End were to City? Is this the future of the LOI? I don't know too much about it, to be honest with you, Peter. All I know is that they're doing like strategies and all this type of stuff. I imagine it would be. It makes sense, I think, for Sligo and for Everton to do that. There's links going back as far as Dixie Dean and then obviously recent times Seamus Coleman. So there's a good link between the two clubs, and I think that's kind of where it was raised. And I think maybe as previous clubs have done it with League of Ireland teams as well. I think Home Farm, Everton were they one as well. I've done it with teams. I think West Brom had it with St. Kevin's. I'm pretty sure that's how Darragh O'Shea was there. But yeah, I think it will be like that. But I don't know 100%, and I haven't heard too much about it. We spoke about it on the show the other night. We just was saying that they were going to share strategies and they were going to share a lot of stuff. That's the type of way it seemed. I don't know if you know anything more on that, Gary. If you do, say
not on the Sligo specific one. As you said, there are links going back to Dixie Dean. I know Everton were over actually in Sligo a few years ago. They played in a friendly. I don't know if you went down to that one, Paul. And I know Everton were over in Sligo back in as far back as 1949. They played a big friendly in the showgrounds before anyone's time. I'm sure anyone watching this, but. We did talk about this before, and the whole Brexit situation is that Irish players cannot go to England any longer until they turn 18, whereas they can still go to EU countries at 16. So maybe I assume this is something that Everton are going to use this as a tie-up, and promising players that are on Everton's radar at 16 may actually end up with Sligo Rovers with a view to going to Everton at 18. Maybe there's coaching involved. I'm only guessing here because I don't actually know the facts of it. But that is the logical assumption in this case of these tie-ups, that the big English clubs would look to relationships with the Irish clubs because, I said, players that could be on their radar at 16 now can't move until they're 18. So the logic would be, I suppose, that players that Everton are looking to develop, that maybe they could even put some coaching in the Sligo Academy as well. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Just a quick. Peter says, Power has been awful for Millwall and they've been shocking this year. Tough for him in a poor team, but shouldn't be around the squad, to be honest. Needs to get out of Spurs. Look, I think he might need this kind of little period where things aren't so rosy to see how he handles it, and I hope then he manages to kind of come out the other side of it, the rosier side, so to speak. Just lastly, then, Dwayne Staunton says, I got mistaken for Paddy Hooligan in Bordeaux. I went with my mate, was snapping next minute 4 points of Heineken, arrived at the table. My mate Brian called me Paddy throughout Lille, so take that. That's obviously the fighter, if you don't know Gary, Paddy Houlihan. Okay. He was a UFC fighter. He was a teammate of Conor McGregor. Game Show says, do you think Diallo is the new Messi? I haven't actually seen him at all. I know he signed from Atlanta to United, isn't it? So
I haven't seen him either. You know, I haven't seen Atlanta. They look really well, the results, and they did so well in the Champions League last season. But I didn't get to watch any of their games as it turned out, so I haven't seen him. Can't comment.
Well, if he does the business for Man United and they win the league, I'm sure people will be calling him Messi. Simon Campbell there. This is just the last of two comments that we're going to do. He says, Anthony Scully has been banging them in for Lincoln. If his form continues, maybe hard to ignore given our lack of goals. Not great picking form, Division 1, but needs must. We spoke about that already. We said that hopefully he can move up through the leagues and then maybe I think there is far more players ahead of him in the pecking order. I know you'll say they're not scoring goals and stuff like that, but you've probably got James Collins, who's probably scored the most in terms of goals this season. And then you kind of go under that, then you're kind of looking at Connolly, Robinson, whatever. But I think Robinson, the fact he's playing Premier League, could give him that advantage. He won 2 penalties for West Brom today, helped them win the game. So I know he didn't score, but he's causing problems and causing, goal scored opportunities as well. So that's obviously a positive. We'll have to wait for Connolly to come back from injury and see what the story is with him. So I think that's fair to say. I think you'd agree on that, Gary.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard, I think, to break into our squad from the likes of Lincoln City. I mean, maybe they're doing so well in League One. Maybe they'll get promotion to be playing in the Championship, or be get a move to the Championship next season. But I think you'd at least need to be playing regularly and scoring goals in the Championship to get in the squad. Because even as Paul, you mentioned, James Collins is scoring quite regularly for Luton, which is another level up.
Yeah, and I know then kind of after him, there's not that many goals. I know Scott Hogan scored today for Birmingham, so fair play to him. Mark McGuinness also got his first senior goal today for Ipswich and helped them get a win. Alan Judge set it up, so that was good to see as well. Darren, just the last comment then, he says, no one probably knows the answer to this, but when do you realistically think we'll be back at games? It will be a year in 5 weeks since my last game, like a lot of others. Now, I think in ways we've been lucky, me, you, and the lads on the team here have been lucky that we get to work at the games, and we don't rub that in anybody's face because it's not. And I don't like going to these games without the fans. They don't appeal to me. Football is nothing without the fans, and there's just no atmosphere. I go back and I watch old videos. I say old, I mean as far back as the Denmark game when Doherty scored. And just the difference with the fans and the crowd, it's just, it must be so annoying for fans not being able to go to a game at all. Like when I went to the games, and I know you've been to the away games, they're like training sessions, the games. It's hard to get the real feel for, I think. I don't know about you, but that's what I feel.
Yeah, definitely. It's a privilege to be at the games, and I certainly felt that and to be working at them, but they are not the same without fans. The lack of atmosphere really is, it does take from the games. And even I was actually chatting on WhatsApp to a couple of English friends of mine. One's a Sunderland fan, one's a Rotherham fan today. And neither of them are even watching their teams. They're both season ticket holders, so they have live streams and everything, but didn't even bother. Rotherham with a great win today, but he didn't even bother watching it because it doesn't feel the same without fans and without the atmosphere. But to answer the question, Darren, and as you say, nobody knows the answer. I am getting more hopeful. I think the key to it, I talked about the vaccine earlier on, the key to it is, I mean, obviously with the COVID numbers the way they are, there's nobody going to be games. We haven't got any games at the moment anyway. But if it's anything like this, it will be quite a while. But hopefully the way the vaccine has been coming out, and I saw we've been very good in the last week or two, a very slow start, but we've been very good in the last week or two at vaccinating people, and the numbers have gone well up. We've been one of the best in the EU, which at least is progress and positive. So my guess would be, I think the season, and it's the right thing to happen, isn't starting till after St. Patrick's Day. I suspect at least the first round of matches, I think we're going to be into May or June before there'll be any fans at games. But I think, and I'm hopeful that come May or June, that we will have fans at games. And I'd still be hopeful that we'd be at games in the Euros. Unfortunately, we haven't qualified. But with the games in Dublin, I would be hoping there could be maybe 30, 40, 50% attendance, because the virus was not as strong in the summertime. I mean, the case numbers did go down. It doesn't spread as much. Hopefully it'll be a lot more people vaccinated by then. Hopefully all the vulnerable people will be vaccinated by then, and the frontline workers. Maybe not. Maybe Paul and myself might still be waiting a couple more months. But I would be hopeful.
If the opportunity comes up for me to get it, I will duly oblige and let you get it.
Well, anyway, I'd absolutely jump and get it as soon as it becomes available. But I would be hopeful that come May or June that we will have fans back at matches in this country. And but it's a guess, and as you say, nobody knows, and time will tell. I know some of our fans are booking flights to Portugal in September, to Baku in October, and hopefully.
Well, Peter doesn't agree, but anyway, we could be back and forth all night with that and not knowing what's going to happen. I think League of Ireland matches could be realistic. I don't know about international matches yet, but if you did space it out, ideally we want fans back in grounds as soon as possible. I think for financial reasons, for League of Ireland clubs and so on. But yeah, huge thanks to anyone who got involved in the comments and the engagement. I think we're going to do a live video tomorrow night as well. I think for the late kickoff as well. So stay tuned for that. I think it's who's it playing tomorrow? Palace. Let me just double check and let you know so we know what
it's
game it is.
Man City and Palace is the late game. It's after Man United Liverpool.
Yeah, because most people are going to watch that. So we'll be on for then. There was a couple of things that we didn't get a chance to discuss as well because all the comments were coming in, and that's a good complaint, not a bad complaint. So yeah, keep it up. Same again tomorrow, and we'll speak to you again then. Don't forget to head over to manscaped.com, check out their products, and use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping. If you want to follow myself or Gary, our social media handles are underneath, and if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel or if you're watching on Facebook, follow or like the page. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.